we can have a dedicated holding cooler, and then the second cooler is connected, and that's the one that's in the picture, that is connected to the food hub. In this project, what we did is we installed a man door in what was the old existing garage door. So we removed the garage door, put in a man door, and then attached the cooler to that building, so that we have access to both the storage cooler and then what we're calling the operational cooler. So the one cooler will be specifically for holding for food, that will be going out in community distribution or regional distribution now. And the other will be for the not so perfect produce that we have still held back, that has still got value, that we can process into food of some sort for our other community programs. So that's really exciting. The second set of pictures you'll see, we have moved forward with our summer students. I have had an opportunity to work with 5 amazing students this summer, and their skill set has just been beyond. So we have now finished the priming of the building, and they are going to be starting the colors of the blocks today. So that's really exciting. And then the picture below that is just as of yesterday, we picked up our Ford Transit. So this is huge for not only our own programming, but for the regional programming. So right now we're working with Kootenai Food Council. They are running a fundraising campaign on the west side of the summit. And they are raising funds to help us with the costs of running food over to the west side for their programming. So in September, we're gonna start with a couple pilots, not next week, the week after, just to get some more concrete costing of what it is to take that beautiful new vehicle over the summit and the time frames. But it's an interesting concept to see how connected the other side has become to our network and really the Creston Valley. It is proving to both the East Kootenai and the West Kootenai that Creston is definitely the connector corridor.
Can you just articulate what the west side means?
So me taking it over to the west side is we're working with 2 warehouses. So one specifically in Castlegar and one in Nelson. And so we will take Creston Valley produce from producers here and sell it to the Kootenai Food Council and their procurement network project. So the producers here in Creston will be paid for that food. We will be paid to deliver it, or cover our costs on delivering it. And then over there, Creston Valley Produce will be moving into their food security programming. So their school lunch programs, their, the homeless shelter projects that they have going, their food banks there. So it's quite interesting. So we'll be distributing just to the 2 locations though, with continuing to build on our program of delivering also local producers products. So Kootenai Co-op is very interested in working with us on developing a routine schedule as well for moving Creston product to their store. So it would probably look like we would have a pallet of produce going that we would either break down at both locations, or it could be 2 pallets of produce that we, one goes to Nelson, one goes to Castlegar, and then in the holes of the transit, we would be taking other producers' product as well for delivery to Kootenai Co-op.
So you're a broker and a transporter.
Yeah, we don't know how it's all going to work out yet, but it's definitely the step in the right direction. This has been something that not only the Food Council has been working on for years, but Columbia Basin Trust as well. So they're staying in over here right now until we get a little bit more concrete. And we're really pushing Kootenai Food Council to come up with the solution for this, because we want to be the contractor, right? We want to be bringing things into the food hub, and we want to be the location of storage, but we want to be delivering and worrying about where it's going, not trying to do all of the managing of the purchasing on the other side.
I know you've got more to present, but
Yeah.
Inspector Jackman.
Yes, well, just.
If you want to ask questions.
While we're on the van or the vehicle, you remember Jen Comer, of course, a pickup truck and a trailer just to the farmer's market was taken back forth. So a couple of questions. Is this van set up as a reefer or refrigerator unit?
So not right now, but But it can be, yeah, that's why we bought this model, is because this is the medium-sized model, so they have, the Ford Transits have a low rise, a medium, and a high. By buying the medium, we can still put a reefer capacity into this. A reefer capacity for this unit is about $40,000 though. So we're gonna have to find some grant funding for that. The other solution that we are looking at right now, it's called a cube box. So it's an actual insulated cube box that you forklift in, you plug it into an outlet, and it keeps your product refrigerated. That's about $11,000.
The other thing then is this vehicle, does it have a tow package?
Yep,
And strong enough engine, because you gotta go up that summit without your tranny getting out. So
exactly.
you could tow a trailer as well.
Yeah, so when we purchased this vehicle, we thought of all of that, and that's the other reason why we didn't go with the electric source vehicle. Cause the EV for traveling over the, like when we look at our regional delivery where we want to go obviously east and go west. Going west, we needed a reliable transportation that somebody was not going to be stuck on the summit because of a dead battery, and also the engine capacity to tow a trailer if we expand.
There's 2 cents to get to Castlebar.
Yeah. So that's that side. And then the last set of pictures is, we're working with another nonprofit organization right now, the Men's Shed, which is a new organization to the Creston Valley, in connection with Scott Cobb. They have volunteered their services, and we are moving forward with building the boxes for the community garden. So by the end of August, we will have the garden all laid out, the boxes all placed, and so next spring we will be ready to offer those boxes to community for growing needs for families. So that's kind of the highlight, the warm and fuzzy of what we've been doing. On our fundraising campaign, I'm happy to sit in front of all of you today and say, as of yesterday, we notified our landlord that we are moving forward with the purchase. How we are able to move forward with that is through community donations, obviously some contributions from some major contributors. So in July, the beginning of July, it was looking really bleak and kind of a little bit nerve-wracking. We had a hard no from Creston District Credit Union on some asks. Farm Credit Canada, things were looking really, really positive. And then all of a sudden they said we looked too much like a business, and we didn't fit their food security platform for contribution, because it was Fields Forward. Had Creston Valley Food Action been asking for the function or the contribution with the harvest share programming, they would have qualified, but they couldn't justify the partnership because the building will be in Fields Forward's names. So that was a little bit of a gut punch. And then unfortunately, Creston Valley Gleaners has not come to the table either at this moment. They just said it was, they don't want to invest in a building infrastructure purchase. They can, look at things at programs in the future. And we do have a plan to have a strategic development session with Gleaners, Creston Valley Food Action, and Fields Forward coming up this fall. But we did get some very positive news in the fact that on July 20th, Columbia Basin Trust adjusted their commitment. So originally they were in for $350,000. They adjusted to $450,000. Kootenai Co-op adjusted, they committed to a $10,000 contribution. We have received our first transfer of $25,305 in community funding from Buy the Block campaign. And then we have another $17,000 pending that will be transferred here shortly in August. The Creston Community Foundation donated $4,500. And then just in random kind of collected donations, we have $1,420. The other major thing that has come to the table is Columbia Basin Trust has offered us a $500,000 interest-free loan for 15 years. So this has made the purchase very doable. We don't have to start paying our mortgage until January of 2027. And then how we are really, so that leaves us with, when we look at our overall budget for the purchase, we have a $76,000 gap. When I was at council, we were at 83. So we have raised a little bit more. But we're continuing to fundraise, but things have really, really slowed down. And I think it's just the economics of where everybody is right now. But we'll continue to do our buy a block campaign because that can continue to run. But really our ask is, around that $76,000 mark. I know that that's a big ask, but when you look at what we are doing in the community for economic development and food security, I feel that this is a very strong investment. The other thing that has come to the table to allow us to move forward with this is Community Futures and Creston District Investment Co-op have syndicated on $150,000, what they're calling short-term operating loan. So this is allowing us to move forward with this and also fulfill the investment and grant project of the vertical farm installation. So we've run up to a couple hiccups with working with Federal Canada. They are not the CBTs of the world. They need everything dotted and everything crossed, and it's been a little bit of a slow process getting the funding back from them. We're working through that. We're all in good standing. It's just a very slow process, and we need this vertical farm installed so that we can have it up and running, so that we can be putting our lettuce into the food programs in our community. So Community Futures and the investment co-op said, yeah, we're all in on this. Let's keep it going. The other thing that they wanted was to keep that funding kind of in place because of also the Federal Canada funding opportunities that are opening up as of now and the new announcements, so that we can have leverage capital at our access for some of the other projects that we have in our sites. So on the last page that you have in front of you, I just wanted to give you kind of an update of where Fields Forward and Creston Valley Food Action, this is more on the side of, Fields Forward, but just what we have put into community in investment this year. So we have done, through the purchase, there's been a few things that we've had to identify, but we've had our overall building engineering assessment completed on the buildings. So we know what's our risk points, what we need to build into our plan, like what we are going to need to replace in the next few years, and keeping our eyes open. This is a really good assessment to have in our back pocket for all of these other grants as well. So our hydroponic vertical farm was a total of $305,000 and change. As of yesterday, we have the Ford Transit, which was a $96,000 purchase. Our food recovery cooler expansion was a $41,000 investment. Our building purchase, of course. We've completed our handy capable building access and concrete upgrade to the building for $42,000. We have identified this year, and we will start working on it in the fall, but the processing kitchen and HVAC improvements, that's $136,000 investment. We do have a commitment from Columbia Basin Trust for $65,000 of that, and then we'll be applying to the BC Gaming grant for the building infrastructure improvement for the remainder. And then this was kind of an exciting one with Columbia Basin Trust, because we have identified in one of their applications called the BEAMS program. It was an opportunity of a grant for up to $150,000 of improvements in your infrastructure for sustainability. We had identified our roof when they came back on the offer to increase their to $450,000. They were concerned about our roof needing to be repaired in 5 years. So they added an additional $80,000, and we have until June of 2027 to get that roof completed. So when you look at the overall capital investment into the Food Hub building itself, we have $1,800,000 going into that overall project. Grant funded was just over $1 million. Fields Forward has invested $67,000 of that, and then we will be working with the working loan to complete the remainder, and then continuing to look at grants.
I have a question on the roof. When you do a roof, you also have an opportunity to increase energy efficiency by adding insulation because it's a flat roof. Does that be considered? Because that would. Again.
So our roof is already a flat roof. It's engineered, and one of the things that we are doing in this roofing project is adding the extra membrane to strengthen it for solar adaptation in the future.
But that's not answering my question.
Sorry.
You have an opportunity to add insulation. where
Yes.
you move the building.
So we, on the exterior, no, on the interior, yes. Because right now, the whole building of the project is just an open-faced rafter system.
No.
Or truss system, sorry, not rafter. And so we can add it there. And that is where it's about $67,000 for the actual roof. And then the rest will go into insulation for adding energy efficiency to the building.
There may be some energy efficient grants you could apply for.
Yep.
Well,
Oh, I've got a whole list of grants that I'm following up all the time. Yeah.
Director Van.
Are you at the stop point, Tanya, for your presentation?
Well, there's just one thing that I need to add because I need to be transparent with everybody is Columbia Basin Trust has capped us for investment moving forward until our loan is repaid. So this is part of our lending agreement with them that they are investing all of this, but until our loan is paid back, we will no longer be able to apply for any of their program grants. We can still apply for the READY funding because that's community initiative. But as far as anything that Columbia Basin Trust, until our loan is paid back, we have been, thank you very much. You have need to work, get this paid off. So yeah, I'm capped.
Thank you. Through the chair, if I may, just an interesting observation. You're selling on behalf of produce for the producers, but I don't see a whole lot of contribution from them in the fundraising campaign. That's just a comment. You've got a $1.1 million project, to which you've got a lot of good funding on. You have a remainder that is, to finish off the investment. So you've talked a lot about what the capital costs have been, but what I haven't heard is the sustainability part. That is, what is the projections on revenues and expenses to be able to leverage this investment?
Yeah.
You have access to a lot of operating capital. I think you said $500,000 and 130,000, so 630,000. Temptation is there to use that money, but if you don't generate the revenue to pay for it, what? So my question is, what does the revenue and expenses look like? We don't have anything in front of us. What is your projections? How are you going to raise the money to operate and be successful?
Yeah, so I knew you were going to ask that question. Obviously, this has been our huge focus. I can confidently sit here and say that we are so close to being sustainable with our revenue with the tenants that we have now. As well, we have been kind of brakes on a lot of our planning because we didn't want to put a whole bunch of things into motion because of the unknown of whether or not we would be closing this facility down as of December or continuing to operate it. So now, one of the other things with CBT's injection of capital is we get to work with a business analyst, and up until probably June of next year, every other week I have to meet and we are building a sustainable plan. But our operating funding currently, we are covering our costs. That being said, we can't do anything extra outside of that. A lot of our revenue is program driven from grants that we are doing certain things, but we are working also with Beyond Boundaries. We've got some conversations with KES and the college on doing some sustainable programming. All of that right now has been on the back burner because of us not knowing what we were going to do. So we will be really developing that in our strategic plan this year, but I am confident that we are not doing nothing in the future, but going this way instead of this way now. We've got regular contracts and leases with our holders that I've already been meeting with them this week, like our tenant holders right now, that we are renewing. They know that they need to move forward into a 6-month or a year contract now, no more 1 month, so that we can figure out, the use of the kitchen spaces and get it maximized to full capacity. But as of right now, we are just there, at covering all of our costs. But this new, movement forward will allow us to make plans to be in a way better financial state than we are now.
Supplemental for me. Thank you for that. And then I see that part of the ask is to talk about the S-108 balance in terms of our environmental, our economic action plan. So that conversation has yet to be had, but I will be asking another question after that conversation. Thank you.
Director Jackman?
Yeah, thanks. So through the chair, so it sounds like it's same question, you know, where's your 5-year plan? Sounds like it's after your strategic plan. Can we get last year's or the past 2 years?
Oh, I can send you the financials, absolutely.
What
Yeah.
you have right now, at least showing, you know, if you're running right tight to the
So
line.
I can tell you in 2025, 2024, we were at a loss, an operating loss of just over $100,000. And 2025, we were at an operating loss of $14,000.
But having those documents to show
Yeah,
how you're closing the gap, the
Absolutely,
number of
yeah.
contracts you have in the works. The other question is, to know if I understood this right, you indicated you have, sounds like a line of credit, $150,000 short-term operating loan, but were you saying you will tap that to bridge the 76,858? So what does short-term mean? How quickly are you hoping to recover that $77,000?
As quick as we can, because we've got projects that we need that working capital for.
But, you know, if something grant-wise from regional district isn't approved in like, you know, a week and a bit, for 2 weeks from today, it won't be approved for 3 months or 4 months because there's an election, everything stops. So if nothing happened, and we generally don't make recommendations on grants during presentation, but applications can be received between now and the agenda cutoff date, which is, well, that's Monday.
Okay,
And then a recommendation could be made by a director for something in August, but if there's something else needed, that's it, it's cut off.
Yep.
Short of a director being claimed until, you know, essentially almost
Yeah.
Christmas. So that's why I asked, what is short term, not ASAP, but can you hold out 4 to 6 months if you tap half of this revolving fund or this line of credit?
it will make things extremely tough. So definitely knowing that we are moving into election season, you know, you guys know what all is happening at the hub now. If this wasn't to move forward and we had to wait until after the election, it could be starting the whole process, you know, over. You never know who's going to be sitting at the table. But yeah, so definitely we are looking for something sooner than later in the ASAP, not the 6-month mark, hopefully.
Could I, one more follow-up, please, because could we offer freedom to the floor to Councilor Dumas in case she had questions on this, that I would go freedom.
That, yeah, I should have picked that up. I haven't missed that. Second by Director Tudy, all in favor. Sorry, I jumped on that right off the bat. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you. I guess I want to, and if I may, put through the chair, there's a letter here suggesting we look at S-108 in terms of the balance that was allocated to the EAP program. First of all, question the staff would be is what is that amount? How is that being earmarked? The interesting thing about that is it's already in the budget. It's not additional tax dollars. So that's of interest. And then the follow-up question I would have is when do you take advantage of sitting down with the business analyst? Because I think based on you've got lots of passion and a lot to believe, but numbers are numbers. And so the analyst ought to provide you with, you know, the projections and the the tools
Yeah.
necessary to,
The analyst has already reviewed our business plan, so, part of obviously Columbia Basin Trusts and the Community Futures and Creston Investment Co-op, they have all had a detailed review of our business plan, and I can send that all to you guys as well. I've sent small pieces over the last 6 months, but it's quite extensive, and they are all very comfortable with moving forward with that. The biggest thing that the analyst we're going to work with is it's not only just our operation, but the bigger regional picture, right? They're going to pull in the Kootenay Food Council. They're going to pull in the local food task force that Columbia Basin Trust is looking at, and where are our opportunities east, west, because they're really seeing this facility becoming the connector to the local food system in the Kootenays. Not only food sustainability for our food security programmings, but for the bigger picture of developing local transportation mechanisms for our producers and closing the gap on something that has been sitting on the table for many, many years. And that's where I said, I'm not a logistics person. That's where we really need to make sure that we're making good business sense is all on we can operate our facility, but when we start reaching out over the course of East and West Kootenays, I want to make sure that we're doing it correctly and profitability is in our favor so that I want to get off the grant train. Because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work when you have to write all of these different grants and then report on these different grants. If we can run this like a business and move forward, that we are still reaching all of those community needs and then increasing the economic development in our region, that's where I want to be. So that's really what that is going to help us focus on.
So you have asked them the questions I was gonna ask. The other question I have to us as a group, it says here in the memo that this council respectfully requests that the committee consider whether available funding will be appropriate. So that's one thing I want to ask the committee, to you guys, if you feel that that's appropriate. We don't know at this point how much money that is. We'll have to ask that question as well. But if you feel it's appropriate, that's step number one, because without your support, at least considering part of this one way for that basically dies here. So we need to know that now or soon.
so if I may,
Yeah.
I don't know how far in advance this letter was put into the agenda, but I was hoping that staff would have an answer to that, because it's a pretty important piece on our S-108 file. And I know that our CAO is off enjoying some well-earned time off, so in principle, as I mentioned, is already it's allocated, it's no additional cost of taxation. We don't even know where we're at in our S-108 with our economic action planning. That's another thing that we really need to get a handle on. So there's some interesting parts that are floating around, but trying to pull something in to benefit the community, I'm in favor of that. It's just that I wish we would have a little bit more certainty around this economic action plan file.
Richard Jack.
Yeah, thanks. A couple things come to mind. So we had an S-107 meeting on Tuesday. What day is it? And Economic Development Area A. So we made one recommendation to board, which will happen in a couple of weeks, where we move money out of the contracted services allowance, because we're 7 months into the year and we haven't used that, but we have another grant request that would exceed what we have in the grant line item. So we will have a financial plan amendment recommendation on board for August. You can't just move money as a grant unless the financial plan is amended. You don't have to have an S-108 meeting to do that necessarily. You can just, well, I gotta be careful here. In theory, the chair of that committee, S-108, could put it past the board chair to put it on the agenda. You could also add an item to this agenda now to have an S-108 budget adjustment conversation. It's late item, 2/3 vote. Don't think it would fail. And then it would be part of this package, which Angela can handle more readily to put on the board agenda. So you'd have a financial plan amendment to free money up from what you're not gonna spend on contracted services. So you have 97,900. Part of that is probably what's going, I don't know if it's a grant or contract for physician recruitment, but you need to make that amendment. And then you'd have to think about if you wanted to grant funds to, Fields Forward. Now, the issue there is you can grant money for lots of different economic activities if they're not a business. You can't say, I don't think that you're gonna grant money to purchase a building.
No.
So that's where you want the steward advice or somebody's advice, because what you'd be doing is, in a sense, replenishing their operating fund. Arm's length to me, I don't care what your short-term line of credit says, you can buy a building or pay wages or do whatever. I don't care. It's not your business, our business, but you could grant them an operating allowance that would keep them from running short on payroll and paying the heat and light and other stuff. Give me two recommendations: financial plan amendment, take money out of the contract into the grant allocation. You have to have the appropriate wording for what that grant would look like to Fields Forward. That's what they honestly need. We top back up their operating fund. And whether you do that in this meeting or just put something to board chair, I don't know, but that should be done by Monday.
We'd have to probably recommend this to the board meeting, correct?
It would have to go to board,
Yeah.
but whether you do it captured here and Robin puts it in the minutes to Ange, then it's simple, it's done. Or whether you do it as an S-108 side conversation and put in a separate recommendation to the board through an S-108 meeting. Or to do the late agenda item today to have an S-108 conversation. This Creston Valley Services, we can discuss, make recommendations on any of our shared services. So technically we can't do S-107 because it's not a shared service.
Yeah.
You guys can't do S-108.
Yeah.
That's why we did ours the other day.
I appreciate your input.
If I can, without getting anyone in trouble, but it was shared with me after the town of Creston meeting that in reserves for S-108, there is over $100,000.
There's another line item, correct, that you could do a financial plan amendment.
Yeah, so let's make sure we have this captured correctly because it should go to the board. So we can have.
And if I may, I don't mind putting forward a motion for a budget adjustment to S-108. I guess would be the first one. And I guess we'll deal with one motion at a time.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if, subject to we understanding what the balances are. And I understand we have the reserve, but there's 6 or 7 players in S-108. And so we have to be really careful about how we manage that money. And we don't have that information. And so we're at a disadvantage. But I think the intent of wanting to and wishing to make a budget adjustment motion is favorable. So I will put that motion forward on the table. I'll have that seconded.
After delegation.
After delegation.
Make a motion. to
Yeah,
delegate.
hang on, I can remove myself from the table right now. Keep it like-
Yeah, right. So, I don't want to cut off our conversation.
But again, you generally don't make a recommendation pertaining to a delegation. You can add a late business
Yeah.
item for the financial plan amendment for S-108, because it's timely. You're more than halfway through the year.
Yeah.
Haven't decided how you're gonna use the money.
So, again, your wording with this help.
Yeah, but I don't want to cut off our presentation
So
prematurely.
we'll hold that motion in abeyance until.
Yeah.
So you're done your presentation and
Yeah, unless, I guess the only other thing that I would like to add is, when we talk about economic stimulus, a lot of our focus is food security, but economics and supporting producers. The little 12 by 10 store that we have popped up in, the month of May has seen great support from community and producers. So in May, we did just over $5,000 sales. In June, we did about $5,600 in sales. And July, we did $8,400 in sales. So this is a little, 10 by 12 room that is offering producers an area to sell their product outside of other local retailers and farmers market, because a lot of our vendors that are in the store are farmers market vendors as well. And so that is another capacity that we are looking at. And we have also had big picture conversations with a regional outlet store. I'm not going to say much more than that, but I think you guys can figure it out. They're on our contribution list. And part of purchasing this property is for future expansion of that entity as well. So this is a really, it's developing into more than just the food hub project. This is really looking at where can we go big picture in years to come.
So I understand you're saying that you're opening an outlet market for our farmers market producers. And
other producers in the community.
That's quite interesting. Now, is that at fair market value because of, like, who are your customers? I mean, what is it? Are the products going to be offered at a discount or fair market value? Because now I would wonder about competition in our community.
So it's actually at both, because we are allowing the producers to set their pricing, but then we are also offering the food security side of our meals, our soups, our things that we are recovering from the recovered food that's coming in. We're making these meals and offering them at pretty much at cost basis. But it's also at that fair dignity of people can come and shop in that environment and not be, identified as the lower income base of our community. And so we're making very, very little profit on that. Actually, I think right now, we're supporting it through our summer student grants, because we did apply for a summer student grant for that specific position and we did get it. In the fall, we're looking at opening it up to volunteerism, vendor support for operating the store, and then our staff support. Because obviously we have farmers market manager, harvest share program manager that are that are in the office certain times of the week. And so we're working that into ensuring that we're cost neutral on operating that store.
So just a follow-up comment, if I may. It's okay to make money. We want to be here for a long time.
We want to make, and that
cost plus is okay.
Yeah.
And
those are the conversations that we had with the producers coming into this, that June, July, August are supported, but September, we will be doing a cost adjustment because this was a trial, right? We had to see if it was feasible to operate this store. It is showing that it is feasible to operate this store and offering another element. So moving into September, we will be making Fields Forward will be making money on operating this store. It's not going to be huge margins, but it will be enough to cover our staff, cover our utilities, and make that small,
okay.
Yeah. And then we are also making money on the products that we are putting in the fridge, right? Because it's coming out of donated food. We have to pay for the packaging, we have to pay for the labor, but we are doing all of those cost assessments on each piece of product that we are putting in there, and we are making a return on that. So that element is only gonna build.
Okay, we will call your presentation to an end.
Thank you very much. I know much more over 15 minutes.
You did. It was, we appreciate you presenting that to us.
Yeah, thank you. And I always, invitation is always open to swing on by, see what we're doing, because things are changing daily. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll need to correctly articulate your motion now. Director Jackson?
I'm not in S108, but I asked Matt to send the quarterly reports to me for S108, just so I could look at what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
So I have it open here.
Mhm.
So your, salaries is really the visitor center, and as of the end of June, half the year, 60,700, slightly under half. Overtime, whopping $11. Not a big item. Benefits running just under 50%. Rentals running a little over 50%, but it's $4,000 or $5,000. I don't see, the only grant that I see is, MRDT or the tourism, 18,750. I don't see any other grant. The money, and I don't have it right here, yet would be able to find it faster. The money transferred to the town for physician recruitment, that'll be on the August agenda. And we saw in June, we would have seen the list of proposed transfers, like to the cemeteries, the libraries, all of that. So that's not a number I can find really quick. But if you don't do this item now, and you wait an hour or so, maybe someone could have, what is the amount that's already gonna show in August 4th to transfer to the town out of the grant allocation? And other than that, the rest of the money may be available between the contracted amount. The town wouldn't be a contract, it would be a grant. You may have part of the grant allocation available, plus most of the contract amount available. That's fine. But Patricia might have a number.
Yeah, through the chair, so I can see that for physician recruitment, which I believe is what
Yeah.
Dr. Jack was talking about, there was a budget of $87,550 in the 2026 budget, and the actual to date is showing that it does appear that that 87,550 has been paid, or it is in the process of, I guess, being transferred, however, I'm not exactly sure, to the town of Creston. So that line item had a total budget of $109,550, of which that 87,550 is in the throes of being transferred.
But also then out of that, that'll be where the 18,750 goes to the MRDT, the tourism grant. So that may be depleted. You might not have any money in that under grants.
Yeah, so through the chair, I can see in the budget what looks like through the notes anyways, but I don't want to speak out of turn. Would be your best source of information, but I'm happy to share with what I can see, if that is what you'd like.
I think between those two, you're down to $3,200 in the grants. You're capped because the town is a firm obligation and the tourism one's firm. So that would leave you the contracted services, 97,900. I don't know if Ben, who's not has any idea what the numbers used to be. And I can find that, but I can't do it in 10 seconds.
Just through the chair, I can see that it looks like the Tourism Society in that grant line item had a budget of 22,000. So the only two items within that grant line for 2026 were the physician recruitment and the Tourism Society.
And the tourism's been paid the 18,750 out of that now already. It shows up on the detail sheet. So they'll get the full 22. It looks like.
Yeah, you might be seeing something.
So there might be zero left under grants, I guess. You wouldn't count on anything from that line. You'd have to use the contracted service amount. You'd have to move that into the grant amount to be able to ask finance to spend it.
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So again, we need, we can speculate here, but we still need information from you to give us the whole picture. Go ahead.
We do, and it's not our job to be going through all the numbers right now.
Well, yes,
Well, it is, but it's pointless at this point until we have the right people sitting at the table with this. But I think it's fair to suggest that a motion on a financial plan amendment, on a budget adjustment towards an operating allowance for this project feels forward.
could that be a direction?
Subject to the review with the CFO.
Yeah, direction to staff, CFO, identify the availability of funding under contract line item for S108 that can be transferred to the grants. line item.
Recording in progress.
Mine was simpler.
Well, just direction to staff where you have to identify the amount available under contracted services that can be a financial plan amendment to move into the grants application. Then you'd have a second recommendation to pay money out of that grant.
Okay, so the first one is recorded, Robin, that Gary just laid out.
Missed half.
Yeah.
If I can share, I think direction to finance staff to identify the amount of funding available under the S-108 contracted services line item that can be reallocated to the S-108 grant. To prepare that motion to go on to the August board agenda for financial plan amendment.
That's a good one.
I like that. Too.
I would second that.
You're right.
That's just direction to staff.
Oh, yeah, it's right from the staff.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, now, if I may, to the chair, did that also, as my brain was working ahead of what you were saying, did you also cover off that this be allocated as an operating allowance?
No, you have to have a second motion once you move the money into that grants line item, then you would have a motion that you would grant X dollars to Fields Forward for their 2026 operating allowance or whatever from the S-108 on the grant line item.
And my question through the chair is, can both those motions stand together?
One
One
then
is
the
not
other,
contingent upon the other.
one then the other. That's what we did for 107. We had money in a line item we weren't moving. So we'll see a financial plan amendment. I'll move that. Then once that's approved by the board, then we can move the grant because the money's there. So it's just A and B.
So we have a direction to staff, if I may, and we have a motion. Is that correct?
I think the motion will be a board, won't it? We'll recommend here and then go to the board as a motion, right?
Yes, yeah, we'll prepare a direct financial plan amendment motion to give the hands to go on the board agenda. And
Yeah.
then this motion, whatever amount you guys decide on,
Yeah.
would be next.
Yeah.
And an agenda prep, we make sure those things are in order. That's partly what
Yeah.
we'll do next Wednesday, make sure that they all line up.
Yeah, and it's pretty critical that that's all in order for August agenda. We have a
All
deadline,
right,
so just want to make sure that's clear to everybody.
clear as mud.
Sure.
Letter recorded.
It's recorded now. I will review it.
Okay, and if you have any questions, they're between us and staff. Yeah.
Chair, were you gonna pick a dollar amount for that recommendation for the grant to Fields Forward?
Well, I don't know. We don't know what
Yeah,
is available, the funding is available to us. We can say not to exceed 76,000.
Darren's like, Canada just got it, put a number there, they're ready to check. You tell finance a number, they're ready to check that within 2 weeks.
We can say that, not to exceed 77,000, actually rounded up. But we don't know until we see the numbers.
that's right.
So you just want a placeholder,
Yeah, placeholder's good, I think.
so that's really another direction of staff, not an actual recommendation, because it's not.
So it's the third thing now?
No, second placeholder for a recommendation on a new grant funds to Fields Forward in the amount of blank.
Good thing you're here.
But Angie, if she has a placeholder, and she'll catch everything that Robin does, if she has a placeholder, this goes well. But you gotta put the amount in by next Wednesday.
Okay,
So we say not to exceed, that so gives us flexibility. I guess,
it's a number and gives us flexibility.
Yeah.
That's all we can hope for right now.
exactly, that's 77,000.
Correct.
Okay. We make a recommendation not to exceed that, and we're somewhere in the ballpark, we don't know where yet. Okay, I think in the interest of getting this meeting going, we'll be watching that, but again, if there is questions and stuff, to staff, I think staff can help answer those, and I think you know what we as a group here are aiming for. But all we can do right now, so, yeah. Okay, we will, move on to our next agenda item, and,
If I can, sorry, through the chair, just so that I make you guys all comfortable, and I've got to go because I've got all my students at food hub. But what would you like to see prior to this moving forward? I know financials, was there any, do you want more of a business plan? What would, just so that I can send you more information?
your projections.
Okay,
The financial plan is a snapshot in time. Your projections tells a story that you're committing to.
So we've got that within the business plan documents for now, so it'll be, not fully futuristic, but then, once we finish our strategic planning, I will share all of those documents with you as well. Okay, thank you very much for your support.
Thanks. Next is correspondence on Goat Canyon Road Park access. Correspondence is there, I hope it needs to be done. We're all aware of it and we've seen it more than once. I think we just basically acknowledge it as correspondence at this point. I don't know what to do.
Just to follow up on that. So essentially we're closing the road and who's monitoring that?
We're not closing the road. No,
Through the chair.
no. We're not closing the road.
It's being posted and the park is closed.
So through the chair, we closed access to the park. That's not a road.
Yeah.
That's our property.
Okay. And who's monitoring?
Staff, through the chair, staff do that. So we check on
You
the
have the
park.
capacity to do that?
We do, yes. Through the chair, we do. We check on it every 3 or 4 days.
And I mean, we're aware of the request, and the request is more of a safety concern and road condition concern that will have to be more fully addressed if we work on developing the park. But for now, it's not an unreasonable request. Of course, it's something that we can only acknowledge at this point because there's no real plan to address it. And as we work toward how we address it, we'll involve staff. And I know if Modi will be involved as well, I assume it will because it's still their road.
Yeah, through the chair, we've had preliminary conversations with MOTT.
Yeah.
Would it help just to do an interim response? Nothing frustrates people more than when they write, especially if it's 2 letters and say, and I heard nothing from the guy. Just to say that the park staff have engaged whatever the consultant for slope stability, they're looking at parking, looking at this, that. You've already got it in your reports. Just say, our staff is working on these items. What is our right now for the response?
Yeah, through the chair, in your agenda, I believe it contains also my response to the individual. Yeah. Yeah, and it speaks exactly to the things you identify and to reassure them that there is a very large process still afoot.
So it's my bad, when I read the parts.
Yeah.
That, I must have taken that as your response to us, but not that you also gave it to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
Yeah, so we have an adequate response for the time being. As we work on further development and public access, there's still lots of decisions to be made, but at least they can be reassured that we are fully aware of their requests and concerns. And we can move on into staff reports, Creston district programming update.
Sure. So through the chair, I understand there was a bit of a glitch administratively. This report wasn't in the agenda, although it was in the legend of the agenda. I've printed some copies and put them in front of you, but they are black and white.
Yep.
Robin, I understand you're going to share your screen with the color version of the report. I'll give you a high level update in Tia's absence, but because you're just seeing the report now, just flag me to stop or slow down if you want to take more time on it. So this is the Q2 highlights of the programming update for the Creston complex from April to June 2026. So overall performance, the programming budgets are tracking as planned and consistent with 2025. The participation and facility use continue to show positive growth trends across the several program areas. So for recreation programming, you can see the report here. If you scroll down, Robin, one more page there we go. That's the color section that is only might be hard to decipher in black and white on your printed version. So for the recreation programs, they experienced significant growth with average youth participation increasing 50% year on year. So from 17 to 40 participants per season. The sports programs remain the strongest performers, with some of our more popular offerings being volleyball, badminton, top soccer, and a new youth street hockey program on the drive floor. For aquatics, participation remains stable overall. Total registrations were down slightly, but despite that slight decline in participant numbers, there was fewer program cancellations compared to last year. So that shows lessons are meeting or exceeding the minimum enrollment targets. The aquatic finances remain on target. Both revenues and expenses are sitting at around 43% of the annual budget right now. For the fitness programming, the fitness program continues to grow modestly. There's some new instructors have been added to help build some consistent attendance and develop a stronger participation base. And staff anticipate continued gradual growth if the current staffing levels are maintained. For user fee performance, general admissions are showing strong growth. Single visit admissions increased just over 22% compared to 2025. Adult admissions were the primary driver of the increase. Youth attendance was stronger during the winter than in spring, and membership scans declined by 9%. So that suggests that more users are choosing drop-in visits rather than memberships. So staff are watching this trend to see if any future adjustments need to be made if that continues. For facility rentals, the activity on facility rentals remains stable overall. We did see the hours decline, but the actual revenues remain stable compared to 2025. So that is likely due to the shift from the flat pricing to the hour-by-hour rental. And we did see this in other facilities as well with that shift. Aquatic rentals saw a slight decrease in full facility bookings, but the total number of bookings remained comparable with last year. So takeaways, as a summary, strong youth recreation growth, particularly in sports, general admission increasing, showing that there's a strong community engagement, programming and the financial performance are on track. Facility rentals are stable despite the change in the booking process there, and staff will continue to monitor the admission trends and the financials and facility usage through the rest of the year.
Any questions?
Okay, we went through that pretty quick.
Yes.
And disadvantage is not being prepared
Yeah.
with this report. I can only tell you that I got a few words. So you're saying that in aquatics, I think you said the number of bookings is down, but you're in line with it last year. How is that a good thing? I mean, the idea is that revenue pays for the expenses.
Mhm.
So the function, I don't know, in my mind is you want to increase, you need to find out why there's less revenue opportunities. And it's not okay that it's in line with last year.
Mhm.
I apologize, but I'm just trying to catch, you went through this real quick.
Yes.
And I haven't had enough time to study this.
Sure.
So I apologize to the chair, but I probably have a lot more questions, but
Mhm.
I'm at a disadvantage.
I have an easy question. I think through the chair, like you're saying, the youth participation, volleyball, badminton, hot soccer, is a lot of that at Creston Ed Center, or where's that felt? Or is it?
I believe it's all in through the chair. I might need to lean on Russia here.
Sorry, I missed the question from Director Duffin through the chair.
Like this volleyball, badminton, soccer, the increases, is this higher use of the Creston Ed Center primarily?
Oh, good
Or is
question.
it part
Yeah.
of this building?
Yeah, through the chair, some of those programs, especially hot soccer, can happen in some of the larger meeting rooms. But the Creston Ed Center is used fairly steadily for our programs. I don't know if there's been an increase or decrease there. I can't speak to that. I know that it's pretty steady over there.
Well, just 50% youth increase. So then the next question, if I can to follow that is, are we trying to program anything through the high school or through the schools, or is it still arm's length right now?
So I can answer, I'll take that. So through the chair, we just last week got news through School District 8 that they have launched, I'm gonna call it a community use program that allows groups to book School District 8 schools, a very specific set of schools. So this is hot off the press, and it's been work that we started really that came out of the Nelson campus recreation engagement project, and there was a lot of, knowledge at that time about the number of activities that required, say, gymnasium space, and so, but it wasn't well supported to have groups access school spaces. So that started a conversation that the RDCK, the City of Nelson, and school district staff, got into, and they were identifying that they had started this program. So we just learned last week that that is an option both for our programming, in a more formalized fashion, as well as for general public use. So I've actually just gone back to the person that we connect with at School District 8 to, confirm that they're ready for us to maybe help broadcast that information out, so that not just the RDCK, but others may also be able to take advantage of use, of school gymnasiums. On their website, it's very clear that there's a set number of schools that they're, directly, wanting to connect with. And there are some that they're just not able to support administratively. So I can't remember off the top of my head where that fits within this, which schools that impacts within the Creston area.
So that's excellent, because that's what we want to see in the long run. Something I've observed, and it's through my grandsons and their friends. It's expensive to do hockey and either baseball or soccer, like this at the time. But the kid will go back to hockey in a week or a couple of weeks, and they won't be as fit as if they had other regular activities, like they can play volleyball or badminton or whatever through the rest of the season, and vice versa for kids who don't play hockey. So that's great. The schools are opening up so kids can keep a little higher level of fitness through the year. Otherwise, they know it. They all talk about how sluggish they are, but they know what have they been doing all summer? Laying at the beach, or maybe a little bit of cycling. But that's perfect. The school districts are finally becoming friendly for using that facility through the whole year. That's great.
Through the chair, once I do have that request out to the school district, and certainly any of our commissions or committees that we work with that are within that school district 8 catchment, we'll make sure that that's brought back, as general information. It probably might show up in a programming report as even general information, whether it's our specific programs or just for other community use, type activities.
Director Gallagher.
I don't know if this is related or not to the report, but ice bookings, because of the delay with the ice machine going in, that sort of things, how is that being mitigated and managed? I am a bit of Thundercats on that. And wondering, is everything, is the communication pretty solid to understand that the delay? How is the delay impacting their ability to plan for the year?
Yeah, through the chair, we, as soon as we knew that was happening, we reached out to all the affected user groups, including people that had rentals. There was a hockey school that we're accommodating the week after, 9 days later. But I reached out to the Thunder individually, and actually they had said that they weren't impacted. They said that their camp doesn't start till early September, so that it didn't have an impact on them. But the communication went out to everybody almost immediately, and we're working to help them with additional bookings in the future.
Right, thank you. I think there was one minor impact on the kids because they had 2 goalie camps that were going to do. And I think one of those was done, but they didn't have all that many signed up. It sounds like both my grandsons are my goalie again. So, but it doesn't sound like they were that upset about it.
Well, through the chair, being upset and quantifying the benefits or the loss of the benefits, that's hard for us to figure out at the intake point, but we are doing our best to expedite that. In fact, just talking to the supervisor this morning, when the plant comes online on the 20th or the 21st, we'll press through the weekend to get ice done for the 27th. That hockey school, the lady that had booked the hockey school for the week prior, she really wants to know if the 27th is feasible date. We're going to do our best to get to the 27th.
Okay, I think that's it for this item. Thanks for that information.
Sorry about my comments.
Through the chair, I'm happy to clarify on the aquatics, especially once Tia's back. She can reach out and clarify exactly what those numbers look like.
Thank you. I'm pretty much a numbers guy.
But the trends are good. Okay, let's go to staff's report on Creston District Community Complex Concession Operator.
Through the chair, this this is a recommendation to award a one-year concession services agreement to a proponent. Then I'll talk about the process and then I'll speak to the recommendation. And so we've had challenges since the pandemic, as we've talked about in the past, having a consistent operator to provide food and beverage services out of our well-outfitted kitchen and concession. It's a well-built facility with a lot of appliances, amenities, fixtures, et cetera, that can certainly provide a wide range of food services. And so we have, since 2021, been challenged, and we this year we put out a request for proposal. We received two submissions. One was from the operator who's been in there for a number of months, Rick's Iron Kettle restaurant, and the other was from a company called GSL Group, who operate concessions out of the Lower Mainland, including at Planet Ice in 3 locations and at Prospera Place in Kelowna. And so they had also submitted a submission on the concession in Nelson, and they were successful. We talked about that at the Nelson Rec Commission last week, that compared to the other submission in Nelson, they were successful and made the recommendation for the board to approve that. But comparing Rick's Iron Kettle and GSL in the Creston concession, staff determined, and through an objective, and objectively scored but subjectively evaluated based on the criteria by 3 managers, staff determined that Rick's Iron Kettle was higher overall score than the GSL group. And the reason was more about the hours of operation and the service delivery model and the menu options that Rick's had provided. Everything else was very balanced according to the 2, plus GSL has significant experience in recreation complexes, et cetera. But staff are making the recommendation based on those criteria. Plus, one of the big challenges was that in the GSL submission, they had suggested 5% of gross revenue as an operating fee / rent, and Rick's Iron Kettle had suggested $1,200 plus $600 during the off season, $1,200 a month during the season. So there was also a financial. And when we went back to GSL to confirm that 5% of gross revenue wasn't a model that we'd be looking for, they had actually proposed a monthly rent of around $550. So far less than what Rick's Iron Kettle is recommending. So staff make the recommendation to the board that we approve a 1-year concession services agreement with the option to renew for 2 additional 1-year periods. And that would come back to this committee and the board every year for renewal, just for consideration to confirm that the service is what it is. And that's the recommendation in front of you today.
I would move the staff recommendation for debate or discussion. So
Seconded by Director Vandenberg. Discussion?
better than we've had.
Yeah.
Looking back half a dozen years.
Is it me, or does it seem to be open more often when I go by, there's somebody there? Or
Yeah,
through closed?
Yeah, through the chair, Rick's had been good to work with us, and you know, it was kind of an in-between relationship, and we had talked about that in I think earlier, maybe later in the winter, I would say that we had awarded a 5-month agreement to them to get us through the hockey season. And their hours are they're gonna be all open for 4 or 5 hours midday, and then during the busy times in the arena, and then for events. And so, yeah, there's gonna be times when, the idea was to have a posted schedule that people could count on. It wasn't going to be sporadic and hit and miss. It was gonna be locked in, so people could say the concession's open. And that's what we're gonna get to, but yes, they are more regularly open than we have had the concession open in the past, at least in my time here.
So if we had a big digital advertising board in our foyer, we could be promoting those sorts of things and let people know that this is a good place to come and consider while you're here working out or doing activities, that you could have some snacks and lunch and that sort of thing.
Yeah, through the chair, actually, there's a good opportunity for cross promotion, and I think I'll use the Nelson concession as an example. It's poorly located for the multiplex facility. It's well located for an arena, but it's also poorly outfitted. And so we are going to try to drive business upstairs, certainly for the fitness and aquatics crowd that use the NDCC, and drive them to the, you know, juice bar upstairs, you know, for various services to ensure that relationship is sustainable, so there is an opportunity here to do the same with Rick's.
Yeah, so I read the program guide when it comes up, but I guess not enough in depth. Is it well advertised in there, or should it be?
Through the chair, we don't advertise in our program guide because the administration of advertising is onerous and time consuming to the point where any revenue we generate off of the program guide requires a significant amount of people's time to administer.
But is it really advertising when you're telling people that we have the concession open from certain time to certain time?
Through the chair, we can say that, we wouldn't promote Rick's Iron Kettle. We would say the concession is open. That's absolutely something we could do.
Any other questions? Okay, recommendation has been moved here, and I think we're all in agreement, so that can go to the board as the motion amendments. And then next is our discussion item, Erickson Water Public Engagement Follow-up, Ruster Kearney.
Yeah, yes, Chair, just, who's here from staff? Speak to this, basically, you know, the question was to staff, what did staff hear? What did they learn from the Erickson Water meeting? And, we had a thorough discussion yesterday on water services. And I understand, what they're doing. They're putting a great effort into answering each and every, property's inquiries as to, their issues. Chris Gainham and staff, so it was a good learning experience yesterday. And I thought in this forum, because we are in Creston, that, people might want to hear the same, information, but if no one's here from staff.
Recording in progress.
Sure, I see Amy is on there.
It's just the.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have any information through the chair to share. I was not part of those events.
We want the information to come at an upcoming Creston Service Committee meeting.
Well, I think it's really valuable for the community. Chris, spoke to it yesterday and we did speak on the side and he's really engaged. He has he's talking to a great number of people and so it's quite valuable for the community to hear what the staff are doing.
So, I guess a couple of observations that I made while I was there listening and watching the groups interact and our staff interact with the group. Couple things that I'd like to suggest is, number one, I don't think that it was really clearly laid out that the role of the Erickson metering and RDC case is to deliver water as per the bylaw, 4.5 US gallons per minute per acre. And after that point, it's up to the producer to take that and do with it what they want. That was not really a good discussion of understanding that could have been had. People are, the assumption is that here's the amount of water to my 3/4 inch. There's no way that I can do 5 acres of land. What are you gonna do about it? Well, really, RDCK is delivering to a meter. What you do after that depends on how you manage your business. And I think that was lost, that opportunity to point that out could have been a little bit better. I think the other thing I observed was a number of times our staff said the user rates we're not changing the user rates. We're not changing the user rates. I think maybe that may have backed us into a corner, because if one day we move to meter, like user pay meters, then that statement will work against us. And that may be the future resolve on this is user pay model. And we did hear a lot of people who are paying a lot for residential and they don't use the water versus the producers who want the water and are not getting enough water. So, you know, your user pay model may help that. But the statements about we're not changing the rates, they're always, I don't think it was said that they're never gonna, the rates are not changing, the rates are not changing. I think that kind of may have backed us into a corner for that future, discussion. So those are the couple of takeaways that I had in that meeting. And it was well attended, by the public.
We'll get out of this item today. We will follow up at the next meeting, perhaps with the staff report, because people read our agendas, it's on the staff, if it's on the agenda, it's available to people and we can have it here for discussion as well. We can request that of staff then at the next discussion on service and meeting, if they give us a staff report on the public engagement of the Erickson Water for information. Here, we have it as a discussion item, but we really don't have the information to discuss. So
Yeah, through the chair, if Robin has reported that, the appropriate staff can certainly follow up, absolutely.
thank you. We'll go to source water monitoring request for proposal.
Or that means the silence.
Yeah. If you,
Okay, the opportunity here is more in line with the discussion. We got some late emails yesterday about deferring and that sort of thing. The reason for the work that we're doing with the Goat River Water Sustainability Plan is based on, I see that we have the opportunity of, we're being informed, but not informing. So we're always kind of late to the table. These meetings have already existed. Here's the results of the meetings. What do you think about the meetings? But we're not really getting a chance to inform our staff and to the next meeting. So in my mind, one of the elements that seems to be driving a lot of this is the data, the water data, the lack thereof. A lot of this conversation is being driven by assumptions and observations. And it seems to me that the logical movement forward is to collect data from the source streams within within the Duck Creek, the water system, but it's not being collected. Yes, we know that Yakanuki is monitoring the reports. The board reports say that they're monitoring the South Goat. Last night it was corrected, and I understand that they've been monitoring the location of the canyon on the Goat River, but only for 3 years. 3 years does not allow any prediction. Wendell Irrigation people have reached out to me and said the monitoring system that used to be in play there is no longer in play on the Duck Creek, and they would like to find out who they need to talk to in order to get that up and running again. Because they like that information. So my question to staff is going to be that with the Yakanuki participation in monitoring the flows and temperatures, is that data available to the public? And I don't know the answer to that. And it seems to me that in order to really understand the nature of what we're trying to achieve when it comes to managing our water system for the future, we need to have monitoring. And so my conversation is I put a motion forward to suggest a way of putting monitoring or getting monitoring in the key tributaries that feed the Goat River, because that data is important. And I think we need to have that available to the public, that it needs to be available to us all the time. Now, I also understand, I would encourage to refer this and wait until the recommendations come forward from the tripartite. I understand that point of view, but our staff is going to be coming to us with a connectivity ask to monitor aquifers. So how is it my request for above ground monitoring any different than what staff is going to suggest for aquifers? So if we were to wait, if the logic in the conversation is we should just wait and see what the recommendations are going to be in October, before we move ahead with any type of monitoring program above ground, then I would have to say that should apply to aquifer work too as well. So how is it that my, motion to look at above ground, is different than what staff is recommending to look at what's happening below ground? The bottom line is that we need good data. 3 years spot check, don't know if we have access to it or not, is not good data. So I'll go back to my opening saying that a lot of our conversation and where we're headed is based on assumptions and observations. So that said, is the reason that I wanted to put this motion on the table for discussion.
Director Jackman.
Yeah, thanks. So, and I saw the emails as well yesterday in between driving here and driving there and other meetings, 5 meetings yesterday. In a couple of weeks, we're gonna see this proposal. It's unfortunately in the business item just down below, we have point hydraulic connectivity study that'll be presented to the board. I don't know all the inputs to do an aquifer study, but I would assume there has to be some monitoring as part of that of the surface water sources. And my understanding was it's about a decade to actually understand an aquifer. Because water hits the ground, it starts moving, moves rapidly on the surface, moves slowly underground unless you have really unusual geology. And in 3 years, they may not actually understand that aquifer at all, because the high snowpack this winter, cross our fingers, may take 4 years to have any significant impact on the aquifer. But it seems to me it would be worth waiting and seeing and asking questions. What is going to be monitored for the aquifer study? Will they already have to measure snowpack and stream flow? And over what area do they think will be contributing or feeding that particular aquifer? Because it may already have to be part of what they do. Otherwise, the data is meaningless. Because as they say, it's a time lag between the snow, the stream flow, and when it actually hits the ground. But then also when they show us what the area of study is, because we're driving blind here, maybe there's more streams beyond that we should understand, because it kind of bothers me is that we have an assumption that we're going to get a goal of having burbot, kokanee, something in a salt channel sustainably forever, no matter what happens climate-wise. That may never be achievable. And the options are what I think Director Vandenberg's pointing to, what's going on in the other streams? And just screaming at us, Summit Creek, no. We need to also understand the big picture options, because if you spend all this time and money in 3 years to get a partial impression as to how viable that project is for ecosystem restoration, and actually 10 years later, we might say, wow, this is never gonna work. Then we're gonna sit back and say, well, wouldn't it have been nice to know a little more data about the other streams? So I agree, expanding our monitoring makes sense, but first I'd like to understand how much surface water snowpack monitoring is involved in, what we're gonna be asked to vote on funding in 2 weeks. And then at that time say, well, would this group, if they're out here with certain equipment, expand their monitoring to some other streams, what would that cost? Can we lump it into the same project? So in one way, I'm kind of leaning towards this, well, let's just wait on this kind of recommendation till we understand what we are gonna get. And we're gonna understand what we're gonna miss out if we don't expand our scope right now to gather more data at the same time. So I would look to refer this, but I'm not even sure if it would make sense to refer it to board, because board doesn't have the depth of understanding that they can debate this. We're almost gonna have to agree to the aquifer monitoring of board, ask a few questions, and maybe refer this bigger scope thing to the next Creston Valley Services and say, we want our staff to talk to that consultant and find out between board and the next Creston Valley Services, there's a couple of weeks there, what more can they do while they're out here, while they're mobilized? Instead of paying for it all again 3 years from now, we realize this may not even work.
Well, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but South Channel will dry.
Yeah, saw it yesterday.
And so, and it's been dry more than it's been full for,
Yep.
for at least a decade. So I think monitoring is critical, because the fact that it's dry now means that there are fish trapped in pools that will die, they'll be stranded. The water temperature will go up, or they'll dry up completely. So, again, is it practical to try and maintain water in there when we know low water that it dries out and fish die? And one of the concerns is fish survivability. So monitoring, I think, is really important. But, you know, when I read these emails, just the final paragraph by Paris, I think basically is a response to what you said. And in short, staff support the goal and would welcome bringing the monitoring concept into the working groups, follow recommendations where it can be scoped, developed with the activity in the province. So where it can be scoped, I think is a big part of that. So where you want to monitor, how often, and what information you want is part of the recommendations. And so I think that's all coming, and I think we just have to bear that in mind when they come back and inform us more. And then we can go back and say, well, but what about this and what about that? So I would say you've initiated the process just by your recommendation. I think it's in line with really what staff want to be done anyway. So they've also said that they need to take a look at the financials and all the stuff that's associated with doing this. So I think it's all upcoming. So just having it on the table is a good move, I think, on our part, because we believe that information is critical to us, and I think staff would also agree with that.
Thank you. And so, yes, I'm in favor of the work overall. Hydraulic connectivity, the above water or the above surface stream flow monitoring. It's all relevant. And it's necessary for us to really understand what it is that we're dealing with, what the effects of our watershed system are. But I also do agree with the comment that we should probably wait and see what the recommendations are. Certainly to understand what staff has in mind, because we have not been able to understand that yet. I don't know that the board is the right place to do that. I think that really should be back in our group first before it goes to the board. And because as a group here, we're fully immersed in all of this. We understand a lot of technical and opportunities that are sitting before us. We are hearing the community. We want the community to be further engaged in all this. I would say I would probably retract my motion as opposed to refer it. I think the conversation that I intended to have is being had. I had put this together before I even understood that there was going to be a hydronic connectivity option. That was, I wasn't aware of that. And, but I think we're headed down the right path. We just need to work together, but I think timing is important. So I don't know that it's the right time to put it in our August meeting in front of the board. I don't think it's the right place. I think we need to have a bigger conversation at the working group level and better understand this, the opportunities.
So if we want to leave it at that, our next item is Gold River Water Sustainability Plan, and Paris is online. And you're welcome to comment on this as well, Paris, if you want to just move to the next item, which is our updates on the Water Sustainability Plan.
So through the chair, if I may, I would like to retract my motion.
Okay.
Or do we just do no action?
No action.
No action on it. It hasn't been seconded or anything, so.
Yeah, no action.
Okay, no
Thank you.
action on that motion. And then we can move on to our update on the Water Sustainability Plan. And I have to say that you talk about being immersed in the Goat River study. I jumped in the Goat River yesterday, so I was more immersed than you were. Yes.
Not in the South Channel, you didn't.
No, I didn't. Was in deep enough water to jump in. So we'll move on to our next item then, which is the Water Sustainability Plan update. And I see there's a brief for today that is on our agenda. And I welcome your contribution, Paris.
Thank you through the chair. If I may, I'll invite Camille. She's the one who prepared the slides. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Paris. I'll just get my slides up here. Okay, everyone seeing that? Wonderful. Yeah, so this update has a couple of things in it. We'll be providing a bit of an update on the results from our public engagement. That was a 6-week engagement, June 18th until August 1st. That's when our survey was open. And also touching base about the collective conversations, the working group meetings that were just referenced in that last item. And then our hydraulic connectivity study and anticipations for bringing that to board at the August meeting. So for the public engagement, we did receive 118 survey responses, which our goal was 100, so we were happy with that. The data will be summarized and put in a what we heard report. More focused on the survey data and the conversations that we had in community. We also held meetings with irrigation districts, industry, and residents. So having those one-on-one meetings and 2 events. We had a producer-focused event with a representative from agriculture and food from the province. We had about 15 producers attend that event. We talked about water conservation stages and how people are experiencing water conservation, especially from the producer perspective, and how conservation does impact their specific operations. So we had some activities and a circle conversation about the project and how people are experiencing water, in the summer. So we do have these activity sheets that we will be handing out through other public engagement. So more resources came out of this engagement as well. On July 24th, we had a gathering. We moved it indoors due to smoke and had also a drop-in at Creston District Community Center. We had about 30 people attend across the morning and the afternoon. So we provided a project update. We also had some posters with some sticky notes for people to share their perspectives on, what the future that they would like to see for the Goat River, like what they'd like that future to look like, how they'd like decision making to be, how they would have trust in that, and also what trade-offs as we're looking at sustainability and water conservation, what trade-offs they'd be willing to consider. So conversations sort of took place in different different pods, and a lot around our 3D model, which is our model of the Goat River watershed that lives at the visitor center, a tool that we will be using for future engagement and has proved to be very, very engaging and helpful. So our collective conversations and our workshops with the Creston Valley directors. At the beginning of July, 8 parties met as part of this working group, which is RDCK, Yakanuki, and from the province, we've got agriculture and food, forestry, water, lands, and resource stewardships, a couple of different divisions within that agency. So authorizations, water quality, and also policy and land use planning and cumulative impacts. So a lot of representation from the province. Presentations were shared, and we talked a lot about values and current state, and synthesize this information that will then be brought to our part 2 of this meeting, which will be taking place next week in Creston, where we'll dig into that knowledge and refine, what the common values are amongst the working group. And just for clarity, RDCK staff are not decision makers in this process, but are working towards recommendations that will be brought to board, and through the other governments involved in the working group will be brought to their proper authorities as well for decision making. But the Creston Valley directors are in our workshops. We are keeping informed and having their input also shape those conversations in the working group as well. And my second to last item, hydraulic connectivity. So we have we went through our request for proposal process that it had about 5 different proponents submit their proposals. And our project team, which consists of RDCK staff and staff from the province, assessed the proposals and went through a consensus criteria matrix to look at the technical, corporate, and financial criteria from each proposal. So the results of that assessment informed our board report that will be presented at the August 20th meeting, bringing forward a proponent that we feel that did rank the highest, and we'll have a discussion about moving forward with that proponent and kind of where we'd like to go with this project. And just really high level, the study will determine how East Creston bedrock aquifer connects to surface water in nearby aquifers that are already under water allocation notation. So they are also considered, aquifers at risk. So we want to get good data and develop a 3D hydrostratigraphic model about of the watershed and those aquifers. And this will also include sampling, so collecting samples in the watershed, running through to 2028, which we will generate a report there. And this is all supported through a shared cost agreement with the province. And great, so I skipped my slide here. Here's an overview of everything I presented. We also are looking to a celebration for BC Rivers Day. Every year, September 27th is the BC Rivers Day. So we're looking to do something special for the Goat River watershed. And we wanted to tell you a little bit about what we have planned, and also invite the directors to consider contributions to our event budget. So this would be a free outdoor community event with booths from different community groups, craft stations for kids, families, anyone who likes to make crafts, refreshments, prizes, and potentially a keynote speaker. Could be someone from the RDCK or someone notable in water conservation or aligned with this work in some way to draw people in. The total estimated budget is around 6,000. So requesting either 1,000 or 2,000 per area to cover event expenses and honoraria for community groups and their staff time to come and attend this event. We're completing a full project proposal that will outline more details and that cost breakdown as well. So that is to come. But yeah, at this point we're looking to start to shape this event and would love support to help make it happen and support the people who we're hoping will be involved. And that is it for me. Thank you so much. As always, people can go to our Engage page, engage.rdck.ca/projects/goat watershed, and stay connected to the project. So thank you.
Any questions from Director Jackman?
Yeah, I guess first question is why would we be having a separate grant for an event when there's a budget for this work? It strikes me as odd that we'd be granting money separately. And I'm not sure, it wasn't clear until you made the statement, some of the honorarium is to pay for some group staff to attend an event. That seems inappropriate to me. So why isn't, if there's advertising, food stuff, why isn't that within the entire project budget already? Why do we have this separate ask for us to contribute more money for an event for the BC River Day?
Yeah, through the chair. So the budget shortfall that we are experiencing. So as you might recall, we had an application into the Real Estate Foundation of BC to cover continued engagement, and we weren't successful in that funding application. So our ability to do events like this that have a bit more cost to them, they could draw more crowds. We don't have at this moment funding to allow that to happen. So the honoraria as well is essentially for nonprofit groups to offer them that compensation for time. Depending on the budget and interest, that's something I think that we can chat more about, but having that honoraria to support their ability to participate is something that in our planning that seems valuable, but it wouldn't be to cover RDCK staff time at all.
A follow-up. So, yeah, I didn't assume it was for our staff, but for other staff, I don't see how that's appropriate. If there's a volunteer group or a society or whatever, then their staff should be coming out because of their interest and passion and drive in the area. How much of this budget would the honoraria comprise? Is it a couple $1,000s, or what was the number you have penciled in for that?
Yeah, the amount that I had penciled in was around $200 per group. So yeah, just local organizations that, don't have to cover a lot of mileage or drive time, that sort of thing. But in my previous experience working for nonprofits, that was sort of a similar amount that we would receive, and we were able to, allocate our engagement funding and align it with other grants that we had. So it does depend on the organization. So
So 200 per group times 5 groups or 10 groups, or?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the calculations are around that, about five different booths, 5 different groups, and then having RDCK staff sort of spread around to other booths as well to fill that up. But that was the number, and it depends on who is available. But that could free up budget to other costs and coverage for that as well.
Director Vandenberg.
Thank you, through the chair. So the last time we met was on July 22nd. That's 2 weeks ago. At that time, we did not get into detail on the hydraulic connectivity. Certainly after reviewing all the information boards, which we didn't have a whole lot of time to digest as well until afterwards. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm going to reinforce the point I'm making is we're not informing, we're being informed. And I'm a little bit concerned about that. And I think that we've had this conversation here where the surface watering monitoring is important to the hydraulic connectivity. You touched on it a little bit, that there might be some included in there. We won't know until the board report, I suppose. But you also heard that those type of conversations should be coming back to our working group ahead of the board. And I don't know if that's going to influence the timeline, if it's going to show up at the board or not. Once again, we're being informed. But the question I do have is, you had mentioned there's a shared cost agreement. I would also say that this has obviously been in the works for some time, because you've had a number of proponents produce to respond to it, which is quite interesting from my point of view. I don't know that we were fully aware of this moving forward, but the shared cost agreement component, what is that? Like, what is our commitment? How is that being allocated?
Yeah, of course, through the chair. So I'll start with the shared cost agreement. So this was funding that was set, or I'm trying to find the right words for this, but it was funding that came from the province, that was funding that they had available for projects. And because of the work that we are doing with the province around, the water sustainability planning, they saw the alignment with the hydraulic connectivity, which was a project that their staff, Stephanie Drake, had developed the project plan. Now they had this funding available, and it was for a short time where we were able to acquire the funding through end of year. So this is something I believe that the province has done with organizations and different governments, is they provide that funding, then we do the administrative components, and they support with technical support. So that's Stephanie Drake, who developed the proposal. She's on the project team. She helped inform the RFP process, but RDCK did do more of the procurement and the administrative work to this point as well. The hydraulic connectivity RFP, there is a copy of the RFP in the binders that we provided at the last workshop. And I believe we have, since it has been something that we have been working on in an administrative capacity since the end of March, when that was the year end for getting the funding. So it has been an item about the technical studies that we're wanting to do, as we've been talking about the data that we're collecting from the community and the local knowledge. There's been that talk that we've had about our potential lack of scientific data and that gap. So we've used the hydraulic connectivity study as an example of work that we're pursuing to fill that gap, if that makes sense.
And if I may, Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to add in to what Camille's saying is that we are receiving a 10% of the grant for administrative costs. So our time is covered through the grant.
Okay. And this is definitely coming to board on August 20th, with a full, robust scope of what it is that this connectivity study is going to do over a period of time.
Through the chair. Yes. There is a board report with a summary of that study. The RFP does have the project overview that has more details as well. And there will be, I think we have about 3 different attachments about the RFP process, a draft contract, and that shared cost agreement will also be provided as attachments to the board report.
And just to clarify, that information wasn't available 2 weeks ago when we had our working group conversation.
The RFP is available. We had it printed, and I put that in an update as well about where the hydraulic connectivity was at, because it was aligning with the RFP, quite a bit of work towards that and selecting a proponent.
Thank you.
Okay. We will consider ourselves updated then, and we'll look forward to more information on August 20th. And so last item before public time is our action item list, dangerous and illness of dog bylaw. Just, we're just removing it from the list after this meeting. And we will be recessing soon to go into closed, which means we'll address some items and go back and open afterwards. So if anybody wants to come back for the rest of the open meeting afterwards, you're welcome to. In the meantime, before we call this recess, any questions from the gallery? Any questions from online participants? Go quiet on the western front. So we will take a 5-minute recess and then reconvene in the closed session. Thank you for attending.